Alright, hello people, I'm the Dude and this is my rant review for the movie Good Neighbors. This is one of those movies that could have been really good. The trailer made it look really good. The trailer was its own movie. Basically, it was better than the actual movie. It had a lot of potential there, but the trailer has nothing to do with the movie. Not really. I mean, the trailer is like this, pulse-pounding, mile-a-minute, like thriller, type thing. With like the way the narrator is going and the music in the background and the scenes that they cherry-picked throughout the movie and all that. The trailer is not this movie at all. The trailer is for a completely different, better movie that they didn't make. The movie itself is very like slow and plotting and stopping and starting and it's all over the map, honestly. So the short version, yeah, I didn't like it at all, not in the slightest. Plus the ending's very abrupt and it has no real closure to the rest of the movie. You don't get to see what happens to the two main characters that are actually remaining at the end of the movie. The movie just ends and that's it. So, yeah, it was crap. The long version plus the spoilers. Speedman is the killer. I mean, he's so obvious about it from the beginning of the movie that he's always off-putting, and he's always, the way he talks to people and the way he looks at people and the way he treats people and all that, there's something seriously wrong with him. Turns out he's a sociopath. At night he goes out and rapes and murders and pillages, and he's the villain of the movie, but it's not really about him per se. Steve Baruchel, who I like quite a bit, but he doesn't ever seem to be in any good movies, so what's the point? He's this dopey nice guy to a fault. He always wants to go out of his way to help, and he's always tripping over his own words, and he's always nervous, and again, really extreme, really, really obvious. And then the third character is Emily Hampshire, who is probably the most interesting character, only because she gets these really weird scenes, like the one where she's like rubbing up against the cat or whatever, and the one where she's planning to use Baruchel as her, personal scapegoat for a murder that she's going to commit, and then she's going to pin the murder on the serial killer, who happens to be Speedman. She's the more interesting character here. The problem with this movie is that fundamentally, it's like stopping and starting. From like, you get these little tidbits of really interesting scenes, and then it's like, the train just comes to a complete stop, and you get these random scenes where they're chatting about like the news and how they get along with each other, and all this stupid garbage that doesn't mean anything in the context of a thriller. It doesn't matter. And then the ending was literally just abrupt and out of nowhere. The big climax is that Emily has to choose between Baruchel and Speedman. By this point, like I said earlier, she's murdered one of the people in the building because that person may or may not have killed her cats. Apparently, she's really attached to cats. It's freakish how attached to cats she is. But she kills that lady because she thinks that she killed her cats. And during the scene, it's really like awkward, and I mean, she like slices her throat, and then like there's no real expression on her face, and I think she says something like I don't know how people do this, because there's like blood spraying all over her. Literally, like blood is spurting out of the lady's neck and spraying her in the face, and she's just nonchalant about it. Apparently, she's as big a sociopath as Speedman is. The serial rapist killer guy who lives down the stairs. And throughout the whole movie, he's been in a wheelchair, but he's not actually wheelchair bound. He's not handicapped at all. It's all supposed to be a big surprise, but it really wasn't. And then, Baruchel's character, like I said, I mean, he's just kind of there, and he's so uninteresting. I mean, he's playing up the whole nervous nice guy thing so much. It's so overdone. It's painful. It's hard to watch. But yeah, the big choice at the end, after Emily kills whoever the lady was, the drunk lady, from upstairs, she has a choice. She's now technically not a serial killer. She's now a murderer too, so she could side with Speedman, the serial killer, who is really iffy. I really wouldn't have trusted him either. His plan is to frame Baruchel for the murdering the drunk lady and all the serial killings, to frame him for everything. Basically, they're gonna use him as the fall guy. And Baroshel's plan is to call the cops and set up Speedman because he knows he's gonna come after him eventually. So he's gonna call the cops, have them waiting, and then wait for him to come after him. So she has to choose between them. She has to choose, good or evil, I guess. Whatever, the dilemma. The way it plays out is, for whatever reason, you have no sense of why the movie doesn't... It gives you this big dilemma, right? Like, who's she going to choose? But you have no idea who she's going to pick because the movie doesn't give you any sense of whether or not she cares about either one of them or why she would pick one over the other or any of that. So the big climax is kind of anticlimactic. But she ends up choosing Baruchel on a whim. I don't know why. Chooses to side with him. And Speedman gets trapped, and Baruchel and him kind of have this little scuffle, all of 5 seconds long, on the little walkway outside their window. And then he just kicks him once. He flies over the side and falls to his death. And that's the end of the movie. You get no sense of what happens to Emily, her relationship with Baruchel. At this point, they kind of have a relationship going, but I think she's just using him. I don't know. She took his cat at one point, and I don't think she's giving it back. I don't know. It's really weird, but you have no sense of closure with him. What's going to happen? Does Baruchel ever figure out that she was, a murderer too? Or, which would be great to know. If he figured that out, and then he had a decision to make what he was going to do about that. Because he's borderline obsessed with her. But, no, that doesn't happen. You don't even get to see what happens to them at all. It's just Speedman falls off the side. He's lying on the pavement. He's dead. And then there's like one scene after that. And the movie just cuts. And that's the end. So there's no closure there at all. And like I said, the climax was really weak. And the movie itself, I mean, you get a scene of like Speedman. And he's going to go and do something evil. He's going to do something evil. And then it like immediately cuts to something boring. Like her standing at her workplace. Chatting with random people. Or Baruchel, like, walking up the stairs doing some random stupid garbage, or their little chats that they have where all three of them are together and they're talking about random garbage that no one cares about. I mean, every time something interesting happens in this movie, you get like 5 minutes, like solid chunks of just nothingness, and it just ruins any kind of pacing. I couldn't stand the movie. Plus, like I said, the serial killer, Speedman, he's not even the climax of the movie. I mean, yeah, he's there, but it's not really about him. It's about Emily, what she's going to choose. And the trailer could not be farther from the truth. It's got, like, the music in the background and the scenes that they cherry-pick throughout the movie and the narrator and everything. They make it sound like it's going to be this really fast-paced thriller with, huge climax and, big stakes and all that. And it's not. It's a really plodding, strange movie that really takes its time and never really gets anywhere. I don't know what they were going for, honestly. Whatever it was, they failed. So, anyways, enough rambling. I do not recommend it. Highly do not recommend it. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time.